this afternoon, representative of the graduating class, the admirable lady from Marawi City, and the parents of the graduating class, as well as the members thereof, relatives, friends, a fine afternoon to all of you. I understand the proud history that is represented on this occasion. The juxtaposition of peoples, minds, and opportunities that have allowed FEU to lay its claim to fame and hallowed history. Your former deans, the great Jovito Salonga and former Senate President Neptali Gonzalez, Chief Justice Artemio Panganiban, a former top FEU law graduate, Chief Justice Felix Mucasiar, who obtained his pre-bar degree from FEU, but of course he transferred to where I come from, and of course, one who had hoped to graduate with an FEU law degree, the icon of democracy, Corazon Juanco Aquino, who went on from choosing the life of a faithful wife to lead the country to its resurgence in history. Just invoking their names beckon a former time of glory, a time to be remembered, a time that is waiting to be restored. FEU graduates, I speak to your future. I do not mind the fact that many of you have been largely forced to hang on to your law education by the very skin of your teeth, burdened as you have been with the difficulty of keeping a day job and studying law after work hours. But I do mind the fact that in the years of struggle that led you to this momentous occasion, did you at any time believe in your mind that if only you had not had the burden of having had to work for a living while studying law, that you could, or you would have, an even greater future than what you think you have? Did you at any time look at your counterparts in Diliman and Rockwell with envy? Those who had the opportunity to devote all their waking hours to studying law and getting to the same point that you are about to step into, that of being a law graduate, while you simply had to work and study at the same time. Did you think for a moment that life was unfair, that it does not deal an even hand, that the gods favor some but put onerous burdens on others? I am here, I think, not to talk about my glory days in UP Law, how I was able to top my class, or how intellectually engaging it was to spend so much time in the library making digests of cases and preparing for recitations conducted by our famous terror teachers. I think you would have little sympathy for that kind of conversation. In your hearts, you are just so relieved that this day has arrived, affirmed in the correctness of your decision to pursue law by the ebullient joy that your family and friends are surrounding you with right now. In your minds, you are convinced that you have just hurdled a very long and high bar that has been set, and you have come across, not stumbling, but standing on your feet, triumphant. And you did it, not in the best of circumstances, such as those that might have been enjoyed by your friends in UP Law or Ateneo Law, but through sheer grit, staying power, and the unwavering belief that you were doing something good for yourself and your family. And for this, I congratulate you. Because you see, in my mind, I see in you a distinct advantage that those who have been favored with more time while in law school do not have. And I call that advantage sheer guts and determination. What does it mean to have been forged by the crucible of difficult circumstances? What does it mean to be a person of sheer guts and determination? I see in you the potential to see way ahead into the future and dream big because you have gone through so much. You know that you can do much more than present opportunities have allowed you to accomplish. I will not hesitate to tell you that those who graduated from some other schools simply because many of their teachers were teaching them full-time have had the great advantage of being trained by the best. But I also tell you now that simply because they had more, better, and full-time teachers does not mean that they will always inevitably be the best. You can do better if you purpose it in your hearts. One needs only to look at the achievements in life of Chief Justice Panganiban to understand what I mean. His story is that of a talented child of parents who could not afford to give him the transportation money to reach UP daily, Diliman daily, so he could study in UP. But that deprivation, if one were to call it that, was just a spur to his ambition to be good in what he was doing. So good that people would inevitably take notice. So he topped FEU Law, got noticed by very important people along the way, and the rest, as they say, is history. His is a story of sheer guts and determination, but also, and more important, of grace. He would be the first to acknowledge that in his life, it was always the kind hand of Almighty God that was leading him on to his place in history. And that is the challenge I want to pose to you today. Can you, FEU law graduates, forget whatever limitations or comparative disadvantages that you have had, and keep in mind only one thing, that you will be the best in anything that you do, not for yourself, but for a cause higher than yourself. I consider my presence here as part of my mission as Chief Justice, to call into action young men and women who are willing to serve selflessly for the good of our country. There is, right now, a phenomenon that is taking shape in our country. Not a flashy one, not one that will make the front pages of our newspapers, but it is there and can be seen and viscerally felt as anything else: the air of change and reform. I can see it from the eyes of young people that turn moist when I tell them to never take the first step to a life of dishonesty, of judges who seem to be able to speak freely now of the ideals they first had when they joined the ranks of public service, of lawyers who talk to me and who wish desperately for the shame of bribery and corruption to no longer burden the noble profession of law. Have you not felt it too? When you felt your blood boiling at the thought of so much waste of public money, so much looting, and when you feel this blood transported into a triumphant rush in the head with a smell of possible victory, of vindication for our people. Have you not been dreaming of a tomorrow when the Filipino can hold his chin up and walk into a community of different nations with pride bursting from his chest because of the dignity and honor of his race? Can you not see in the not too distant future a time when our nation will truly stand as one for what is right, for what is good, for what is noble, and what is just. In a speech I delivered before the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, the National Association of Lawyers, during the time I was being considered for the position of Chief Justice, I said these words, and may I say them again, for they are as fresh and as genuine to me as when I said them nearly 2 years ago. I present 18 years of possibilities, of being able to conduct a deep search for the best and the brightest in our land, who are to be set apart as a generation of judges who will commit themselves to lives of uprightness and excellence. I am willing, through how I have lived and how I will live, by God's grace, to be the first to be daily tested if I meet the highest standard of integrity and credibility. I am willing to be measured by the degree of sacrifice I make, by what I am willing to give up, in order that the vision of a judiciary that is truly noble, upright, independent, learned, and excellent in every way can become a reality. I urge you then, consider this day as but one momentous day out of many momentous days you will embrace in the future. While you enjoy it, look ahead, out there where the vista, where the future of our country beckons us. Consider public service. Consider a life where the reward is deep and heartfelt, though maybe not pocket deep. Do not for one moment consider yourself disadvantaged, but with whatever energy and time you have, plow deeply into the life of the mind and make up for the opportunities lost to be a better legal scholar, to be a more prepared future practitioner of the law. Develop the habit of reflexive thinking so that you can shape your own philosophy about law and society. Challenge in your thoughts the architecture of things. Ask constantly, how can things be better? How can my people be lifted up? How can we enjoy a season of grace? How can we renew the days of glory? Consider what the Far Eastern University is trying to do and appreciate it. Look at how the revival spirit is springing up. Consider their big dreams for your university and the Institute of Law. I know for one that your dean aims to bring the excellence of dedicated teachers, the normal experience of FEU Law Institute students. Support those dreams, and in your hearts, cherish even bigger dreams for your country. It was suggested to me by your very learned dean that I give you an inkling of how things are being shaken in the judicial and legal profession through the reforms I have been leading as Chief Justice. I mulled this suggestion, and I appreciate the fact that he thinks there is not enough wide-scale public understanding of the fact that the very foundations of the culture of law practice and the discharge of the judicial functions are being closely examined. I thank him, because I sense in him a desire to help me as Chief Justice to communicate with the public better and give me a lift up, so to speak. I do appreciate that fellow feeling that has emanated from his generous heart. But I would not take away from you, FEU law graduates, the glory of this hour by focusing on all the work that I have tasked myself to do. I would share, but only to the extent that it would extol the finer feelings that are already expressed in the beaming faces of you graduates. I will share with you what I see in the horizon, and with it, I bear to you a part of my soul. I see in the horizon a Supreme Court that fully empathizes with the fact that thousands of families yearly invest a significant part of their fortunes, modest as they mostly are, for the prospect of having a child minted as an abogado or abogada. I see a leadership that will fulfill its promise that every such investment will not go to waste. Not because it will decree a 100% acceptance of all law graduates into the Philippine bar, but because it will engage in a sustained conversation with the law schools that the human talent that cannot be given the brass shingle of attorney or at law or member of the Philippine bar will have a career path that will make use of the legal training that had been invested in. Perhaps as a paralegal, a court researcher, alternative dispute resolution specialist, non-law school legal trainer, expert in administrative or bureaucracy law, or such other career path. I know it is not expressly the mandate of the Supreme Court to lead such efforts on behalf of all law school graduates. That this should be the principal concern of all the law deans and the Philippine Association of Law Schools is obvious. That this could be a concern of the Legal Education Board, which is the regulatory body independent of the Supreme Court, is a constraint. Be that as it may, as the top leader of the profession, as constitutionally the highest ranking lawyer in the country, I, as Chief Justice, cannot ignore the families who seem to have placed so much hope in the legal education of their sons and daughters. I feel for the lolos and lolas, the nanays and tatays, the ates and kuyas, the brave spouses who have willed themselves to sacrifice so much just for the chance, the 20% chance that their graduates will finally embraced by the brotherhood and sisterhood of the law. I speak of us as a community of leaders who will express such concern for the waste of human talent, energy, and time, simply because we have not developed purposefully a track for our law students so that regardless of what happens to their performance in the bar examinations, they will have a good future to speak of. This thinking of mine is along the same principles behind some of the reforms that the Supreme Court has been implementing seriously lately. I bring to your attention our jail decongestion program, which seeks to increase the chance of detention prisoners whose chance of conviction is at a low 20% anyway, according to our statistics, to be freed even if the prisoner is hardly in a financial position to post sufficient bail. I am talking about the e-subpoena system that we are going to launch shortly so that police witnesses to crimes will be bound to appear and testify when called by the courts and thus prevent unjustifiable delays in criminal trials. I am talking about the case decongestion program that we are aggressively pursuing so that the process of pursuing justice through our courts does not add to our people's feeling of abiding in justice. Thus, you will see, and might have already seen, a renewed emphasis on restoring the credibility of our courts and eventually the legal profession. I want you to be proud of the common future that awaits us, in which we see ourselves as knights and soldiers, not of fortune, but of the high cost of searching for the holy grail of justice in our land. Various lawyer organizations have already received the message of transformation. Some of them are undergoing a time of reflection as they face the hard question of why the legal profession has sunk so low and what it can do now to lift itself. I have posed to them the challenge of backing the whispered charges of corruption in the judiciary with hard evidence. And this, therefore, means that they have to renounce the means by which some of them have sustained their careers. They have to face the gauntlet. They have to face it now, and they must overcome the pain that any intense self-examination will bring. Dear fellow pursuers of the law, we need to set our face to be hard as flint, to overcome whatever obstacles hurl themselves to block our path to restoring the dignity and honor of our profession, including being willing to accept the painful truth on why our profession remains so vulnerable to and is even being blamed to be purveyors of corruption. As early as now, you should face the hard questions, because I will repeat my message delivered to last year's successful bar examinees. Never, never take the first step to corruption. This is now the time of redemption. Do not slide down to the mire. I had said this nearly 1 year ago. For too long a time, our profession has reaped the scorn of some of our countrymen. It has been saved only by the occasional oasis of the stories of his heroic individuals among us. These are the individuals who have been pushed by fate into the spotlight and under such scrutiny have clearly demonstrated what nobility, courage, and integrity mean. Most of the time, the Filipino public feeds on sad, angry jokes about corruption, about corrupt and overbearing lawyers. In large part, we have been characterized as selfish, untruthful, and arrogant, as carrying ourselves about with a false sense of entitlement. This public perception must stop. And I ask the batch of new lawyers of 2013, and I will ask you again as I face you next year, to engage in a counter-cultural revolution to bring about the reversal of this public view of lawyers. While leadership on this matter has to come from the Supreme Court as the constitutional body with a legal and moral duty to ensure that the legal profession keep to its code of ethics. This revolution, if it is to succeed, must be infused with the energetic blood of the young and lifted by the heights of their creativity and imagination. It is no small matter if you will say in your heart, I will not be corrupt, and I will allow no one to corrupt me. My dear FEU law graduates, I ask you to be with me, to be with us, your leaders of the law, as we give our very soul to earning the respect and restoring the trust of our people. My warmest congratulations, of course, are always reserved for the valiant men and women who make up the FEU Law Corps of Professors, as well as the mothers, fathers, spouses, siblings, children, and friends who form the backbone of these blessed 2014 graduates of the FEU Institute of Law. To all of you, mabuhay po kayo, and may God bless you in the way only He can. Salamat po.